I spent 40 years of my life worrying about money, about what people thought of me, about whether I was doing enough, being enough, having enough. 40 years. And I want to tell you something that took me until I was nearly 70 to understand. Almost nothing I ever worried about happened. And the things that did happen, the real hard things, I got through them anyway. I'm 91 years old, and the only thing I truly regret is all the living I missed while I was busy being afraid. Can I tell you about the 8 things I wish I had stopped worrying about a whole lot sooner? Number 1, money. Lord have mercy, the hours I spent worrying about money. Not because we didn't have enough. We had enough. Harold worked, I worked. We paid our bills. We put food on the table. But I worried about money the way some people breathe, constantly, automatically, without even realizing I was doing it. What if the roof needs replacing? What if Harold loses his job? What if we can't afford to retire? What if? This is my friend Frank, taken 1971. That man worked himself to the bone, worrying about money his entire adult life. Never took a vacation. Never spent a dime he didn't have to. Saved every penny for a retirement he was absolutely certain he needed to be twice as big before he could enjoy it. Frank died at 61, heart attack, on a Tuesday morning, at his desk. His wife told me afterward they had more money in the bank than they had ever spent in a year. He died rich and unlived. Here is what I know now at 91. Money is a tool. That is all it is. It is not a score. It is not proof of your worth. It is not something you hoard while your actual life sits waiting. You need enough. That's real. But enough is closer than you think. And the worry on top of enough is just theft. It steals the days you already have. Number 2, what other people think of you. Oh, this one. This one took me the longest to shake. I spent decades, adjusting myself for other people's opinions. What will the neighbors think? What will my mother say? What will the women at church think if I wear that dress? Do you know what I have discovered at 91 years of age? Those people were not thinking about me, not even a little bit. They were too busy worrying about what I thought of them. We were all walking around performing for an audience that wasn't even watching. I have a doctor now, lovely young woman, Dr. Vasquez. She told me last year that social anxiety affects 15 million adults in this country alone. 15 million people losing sleep over what someone else might be thinking about them. I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me at 30. The people whose opinions you are losing sleep over, 10 years from now, most of them will not be in your life. And the ones who stay, they were never judging you the way you thought. They were just glad someone was there. Number 3, the future. Did you know that 76% of adults say they are anxious about the future of this country? 76. I believe it. I was one of them. I worried about the future for decades. What is the world coming to? What kind of country will my grandchildren grow up in? What if everything falls apart? I have been alive since 1934. I lived through the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, assassinations, recessions, a pandemic that shut the whole world down. And here I am, 91 years old, sitting in my living room with a cup of tea and a garden full of tomatoes. The world has always been on the verge of falling apart. That is not new information. Every generation has had its version of the sky falling. And somehow, the ordinary people kept getting up, kept feeding their families, kept loving each other, kept going. The future you are worrying about has not happened yet, but the present you are wasting worrying about it, that is happening right now. That is today. And today you cannot get back. Number 4, your health. Now this one is interesting. Because I was a nurse for 44 years, and I am the first person to tell you that your health matters. Pay attention to your body, absolutely. But there is a difference between paying attention and paying rent. I had a neighbor named Carol, sweet woman, spent 30 years convinced she was about to have a heart attack. Doctor's appointments every few months, wouldn't travel. What if she got sick far from home? Wouldn't eat anything she hadn't researched. Spent her whole retirement preparing for an illness that never came. This is Carol, taken at my kitchen table, 1988. She looks worried even in the photograph. She always looked worried. Carol died at 74 of a stroke that nobody saw coming, in her sleep. Not the heart attack she spent 30 years fearing. Something completely different. Something she never once worried about. Worry is not prevention. Worry is just suffering in advance. Take care of your body, yes. Eat well, sleep, move, go to the doctor. But once you have done what you can do, let it go. The worrying after that is not protecting you. It is just stealing your peace. Number 5, your children. I raised 2 children, and I worried about them every single day of their lives. Are they eating enough? Are they making the right friends? Are they going to be okay? My daughter is 64 years old now, and I still catch myself worrying about her. She called me last Tuesday, and I said, "Are you eating enough?" She said, "Mama, I am 64 years old." I said, "I know that. Are you eating enough?" Here is what I know now that I did not know at 35. Your children are not as fragile as your worry tells you they are. They are built to stumble. They are built to fall down and get back up. The falling is not the problem. The falling is the education. Every time I hovered over my children out of worry, I was stealing from them. Stealing the chance to figure something out. Stealing the confidence that comes from solving your own problems. The most important thing I ever did for my children was not protecting them from everything. It was showing them that I believed they could handle it. Number 6, making mistakes. I spent so many years afraid of getting things wrong, afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid to make the wrong choice, afraid to take the job, ask for the thing, start over. There was a position offered to me in 1968, head nurse at a larger hospital, more responsibility, more pay, and I turned it down because I was afraid I wasn't good enough, afraid I'd fail, afraid of what would happen if I tried and fell short. I think about that sometimes. Not with regret exactly. My life was good without it. But I think about the woman I might have become if I had been a little less afraid of being wrong. Here is what 91 years has taught me about mistakes. You will make them. Every single one of them will feel enormous in the moment. And most of them will become the stories you tell later that make people laugh, or the detours that led somewhere you never expected, the mistakes you don't make because you were too afraid to try. Those are the ones that stay quiet. And quiet regret is the loudest thing in the world at 3 a.m. Number 7, not being enough. This is the one underneath all the others. If I am honest, and I am always honest, most of my worrying came back to this one thing. Am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Worthy enough? Loved enough? I spent decades trying to earn a feeling that was never for sale. This is me, 1962, first year as a nurse, 28 years old. Look at that face. She has no idea she is enough. She is working herself to exhaustion, trying to prove something to people who already love her. I want to go back and tell that woman something. You are already enough, right now, as you are. Not when you lose the weight, not when you get the promotion, not when you fix what feels broken. Right now, the feeling you are chasing of being okay, of being worthy, of being allowed to rest. You could have given yourself that feeling at any time. It was never somewhere you had to go. It was always somewhere you had to stop. Number 8, death. Now I know what you are thinking. Margaret, that one seems worth worrying about. Let me tell you something. When you are young, death feels like an interruption, something that happens to other people that might one day come for you like a thief in the night. I have sat with dying people, 44 years as a nurse. I have held the hands of people in their final hours. And I want to tell you what I have observed. The people who spent their lives afraid of dying, they were also the ones who spent their lives afraid of living. The two fears travel together. The people who died the most peacefully, they were not the ones who had figured out how to avoid death. They were the ones who had stopped trying to avoid life. They had said what needed to be said, gone where they wanted to go, loved the people in front of them fully and without holding back. They were tired and ready and at peace. I am 91 years old. I do not know how many mornings I have left. Could be many, could be few. But I can tell you this, I am not afraid, because I have not spent my life waiting to live it. Worry is the rent you pay on trouble that never comes. I paid that rent for 40 years. And when I finally stopped, at 70 years old, I got back something I didn't even know I had lost. My days, real, full, present days. Not days spent half somewhere else, running disaster scenarios that never happened. You are not going to remember on your last day how much you worried. You are going to remember the Tuesday mornings on the porch, the dinners that ran too long, the people you loved who knew you loved them because you were actually there. Stop paying rent on a house you never have to live in. Now go call somebody you love, and when they answer, just listen. Don't plan, don't prepare, just listen. I'll be here next week. Same chair, same lamp, probably the same cardigan. Subscribe and bring a friend.